Welcome everyone to M365 UK December edition, and this is our 18th edition. So been running since last year, and today we've got, or at least last I checked, we got 60 odd people registered, unless they've kind of gone for their Christmas parties or something. So we'll see. But welcome to those who's made it, and really appreciate. So, as you know, this session is being recorded, and so it'll be available to you by this Friday, or at least I try and do that on the same week. So welcome once again. So we got two very great sessions today covering of Microsoft 365 Insider Management with Matt Fooks, which we'll head over to him shortly. And then we've also got Microsoft Viva session, everything that you want to know, I guess, about it, and some fun element to it as well. So we welcome Sara, Fennah, and Lesley, Crook as well. So big welcome to all of the speakers. And this is roughly the agenda. Tend to be a 2 hour, but we're as I'm always informal around the timeline side of things. So roughly around 45 to 50 minutes with Q&A. So at any point in the presentation, please feel free to post your questions or thoughts or reaction. It's fairly open. All I would ask is that for anybody to just behave appropriately, please. No foul language or any kind of offense. And I'm sure we're all grown-ups, so we can manage that nicely. So I would appreciate that. In terms of for those of you who are new to the user group, and for those who don't know me, I'm Chirag Patel. I live and work in London, work with Patel Consulting, delivering deployment, migrations, all things SharePoint, Teams, Yammer, the whole lot. Been doing it for almost over 20 years, but with Office 365 over the last, I think, 8-9 years now. I tend to volunteer my time as well around speaking, moderating sessions, or even organizing this M365 UK group as well. So feel free to reach out on techchirag.com, LinkedIn, Twitter, anything else, or anything I can help you with would be good. For those who are regular, and I appreciate you register. So got a new session, new session coming back in 2022. So 26th of Jan is the next event. We've got Joe Griffin and also Christian Buckley, who will be talking about Power Platform for the pro developers. So a bit more than citizen developer there, but also Christian from the Microsoft Teams productivity tips. So his session always changes, even though it might be a similar title there, but looking forward to welcoming them in 2022. Meetup.com/M365UK is the event site, so you can head over there and register for the next month's event. And as some of you know, slides and recording are always available. In particular, I think the video will be available. So those are the URLs. I'll post them in the chat window shortly. And as ever, I'm always looking for speakers, albeit, even if it's 15-20 minute session on any topic, as long as it's around Microsoft 365, and it'll be really just to even hear from yourself, with your own unique perspectives in terms of how you use M365, good, bad. It doesn't really matter because it's the experience that counts. So hopefully, would love to have you speak with us as well. So that's the URL there as well. And some of you may remember that back in June, seems like a long time ago, just a few months ago, I ran a M365 UK Cloud Skills Challenge in conjunction with Microsoft, who were kind enough to set this up for us, for the attendees especially, obviously, to take part in the challenge. And those were the three learning paths that we had on display there. So thanks for all the attendees who took part, but in particular I'd like to say congratulations to our winners, Nikki Chappell and Andrew McCallum, and prizes on. I think Nick has got the prize. Andrew, I'm sure it's on its way. So huge congratulations, great prizes. And hopefully next year we'll try and do that again with Microsoft as well. So I want to say a big thanks to Microsoft as well for sponsoring and providing those prizes. Okay, so let's kind of head over to our first session now. And Microsoft 365 compliance, it is a huge topic, as some of you may know. There's lots going on, lots of features coming out, but insider risk management is a particular area which kind of deals with, obviously, the internal side of things, confidential data leaks or violations, and other ways of kind of setting up the workflows to kind of meet some of the scenarios in order to protect, yeah, your information. So really looking forward to this session by Matt Fooks. And Matt's been around for many years, specializing in Microsoft 365 as a modern workplace architect. I believe you also runs as well the user group up in Leeds. So great to have you here, Matt. Welcome. And without further ado, I'll head it over to you. So, Matt, over to you.
Cool. Okay, so welcome everyone. We're going to talk, as Chirag has introduced it, we're going to talk about Microsoft Insider Risk Management. So a little bit about myself. Yeah, I'm a modern workplace architect. I work for Boxy up in York, and I'm also got a few certifications there. And for about 3 years, been hosting a user group in that sort of Leeds, Yorkshire area. And in my spare time, most of it is taking up with family activities and also sort of CrossFit. And if you want to connect with me, you can connect with me through LinkedIn or Twitter. I'll also be at the Scottish Summit, hopefully, pandemic pending, in February. So first off, what is an insider risk? So when we talk about insider risks, we're talking about risk towards your data rather than any physical health risks or anything, although that's quite topical at the moment. And these can be varied. They can include data exfiltration through theft or leakage, corporate sabotage, fraud, harassment, and compliance and security violations, among other things. And they also can be intentional or not intentional. So someone maliciously can be stealing your data, as we all know, hackers, etc. But also someone unintentionally can be kind of oversharing that data, say sending a doc to work on at home. So some organizations will definitely be more at risk for insider threats than others, and that is definitely a certainty. Organizations with highly prized intellectual property or government secrets, for one. Examples might include manufacturers, government defense departments, or medical research institutes. However, every organization at some level will be at risk of data exposure. Strict data protection laws, both in the UK and abroad, ensure that organizations that mishandle data can be imposed with heavy fines. So we've seen that through GDPR. Any organization could potentially be targeted or subject to a disgruntled employee who could be selling on data. A likely scenario is that oversharing, which I mentioned a bit ago. So someone sort of saying, I'll just send that document to my personal email and I'll work on it at home. So it all seems kind of maybe not too much of an issue, or is it? Or I'll share that document library and continue working on the project. But essentially, it could be sending that document, that protected or sensitive document, to an untrusted device. So a quick question, I suppose, and feel free to turn on your mics or maybe put a thumbs up. Who has shared a company document or uploaded something to the personal storage? Not sure I can see anybody.
I think I saw some thumbs up there, so I'm sure some of them have done that, or at least they've seen somebody who
somebody do it. Yeah, sure. So I'm going to be honest. I've done it myself. It's something you put time and effort, and naughtily you kind of think, oh, I'll take that template with me or use it. Admittedly, that was a while ago, but I think a lot of people have done this. And not really seen much harm in doing that. So we need to take a slightly different approach to these risks. So insider risk management helps build on a realistic picture of the risks, exploring the behavior and context. And that's a really important thing. It's that who, what, and why. So these risks are different from external risks in a big way. So with external risks or threats, you can take a more forceful or black and white response. You can block and you can isolate. Insider risks are far more complex. After all, we need to allow people inside the organization to access the data, access the applications, and basically do their job. You have to take things a bit more into context. So that's when I mean when we look at the behavior and the context behind it. So this is a more flexible approach or more detailed approach to data protection than just what we get with some of the traditional or more longer term maturer products like information protection and DLP. IRM also increases the risk severity for certain potential situations, such as performance review. Maybe there's a disgruntled employee, they've got a bad review, they've been put on sort of performance improvement plan, or somebody's handed in their notice, so they're leaving the organization. But surely existing measures, we've got plenty of them, and I've listed some of them here, and surely that's enough, isn't it? You know, we've got plenty of really good tools already in the Microsoft 365 suite, and we've got plenty of them within the security and also within the compliance areas of there. So yeah, we have got a lot of great features which tackle security and data protection, but are they really enough? And that kind of depends, really. There's no real right or wrong answer. It depends kind of how you have some of these things set up. And with Defender and MIP and Microsoft Cloud App Security, it feels like a huge leap forward. We've moved away from that kind of more traditional stance of sort of castle and the castle walls to a more zero trust model. So we're moving away where we kind of don't really trust anyone until they can prove who they are and then what they have access to and how well we can confirm it is actually them, and also where and what they're trying to access the data on. So what device, whereabouts are they located? Are they within the castle walls, if you like, in a trusted office, or are they somewhere else? Are they on holiday on a beach, in an internet cafe? So many of the existing products that protect your environment and its data can be a little bit inflexible in their approach. There isn't really a grey area. When dealing with insider risks, we need a greater insight. We can't just take that black and white approach, that block and isolate. And I use the example of when I've implemented Microsoft Information Protection before and DLP, and the organization comes back and says, Matt, it's great that we've got this, but we need to make it a little bit more, allow the users to do more. So straight away, their intention was we don't have things like classification overrides, but come back a week later in the pilot and they want to change that. They want to allow VIPs or maybe all their staff to kind of override the protections that they're. So starting off with good intentions, but yeah, over time that kind of changes. The realization is that it's just a little bit inflexible at times. And we really have to balance that user experience, that productivity and data security altogether. And there isn't a perfect system that fits within every organization. So not one shoe always fits. So I've put this slide here, and it's one from Microsoft. There's some really interesting statistics around insider risks that I wasn't quite aware of until I delved into it. And I'll just read through some of these because they're really interesting. So predisposition. So 51% of employees involved in insider risks have a previous form of doing this before. And then we have the stressor. So we have 92% of cases were preceded by a negative work event, like a demotion or dispute with their manager. And then concerning behavior. So 97% of cases for insider risk involved an employee whose behavior had been flagged by their manager already. So yeah, this kind of shows you where IRM can really come in and help flag that and address it, and maybe look at it before it happens, before it becomes a real data protection issue. we have risk, and 59% of employees who leave an organisation say they have taken sensitive data with them. So these are quite staggering. They're quite, quite big percentages really of people who, or areas where it's been, really shows this as a real issue. So it kind of says to me that it's not such a really a case of when a violation will happen. It's probably a case of it's already happened. It's probably already happened multiple times, and it's more of a case of how bad is that risk. And I've popped this slide here. This we can see a large increase of the costs from insider threats across the globe, rising substantially in 2020 from 2018. And this is from a proof point survey, if you like, or report that was done in 2020. So what is insider risk management? Well, IRM is a tool that helps you to minimize internal risks by enabling you to detect, investigate, and act on intentional or unintentional risky activities within your organization. It's a policy-based tool, allowing you to customize policies and choose the data repositories and indicators, and that's an important term we'll come to in more detail, that are kind of right for your organization. So it helps defend against a wide range of insider risks. So we've got data spillage, IP theft, fraud, insider trading, sensitive data leaks, security violations, confidentiality violations, workplace violence, policy violations, conflicts of interest, workplace harassment, regulatory compliance violations. So it's a number of areas it covers. So how do we kind of start with this? Well, we start by creating policies. So policies are predefined templates and conditions that define triggering events and risk indicators. And then we get alerts. And alerts are where can be automatically generated by risk policy matches. And these will appear in a dashboard, the alerts dashboard. And then that's when we kind of hand over to reviewers, and the reviewers can quickly identify, review, evaluate, and triage these alerts. An investigation can begin, and investigators can then explore the activities for a selected user, dismissing activities that are kind of usual or benign, and then cases can be created from those. So the ones you really want to care about, investigating, create a case, and then reviewers can add their case notes to that case as they carry on with the investigation. And then we get a number of actions off the bat, so we can act upon that. So reviewers can act upon cases quickly to resolve the situation. And there could be many different things that they do. They could be directing a user towards training, sending a reminder of a policy, say like a email policy, or acceptable use policy, informing them to adhere to good practice, or trigger more serious actions where maybe it involves management, HR, or even legal departments. So we have to ensure the investigations of insider threats are dealt with appropriately. And something that's very cool is this unbiased investigation. So what IRM uses is anonymisation to ensure that HR investigators are taking an unbiased approach. So, this is quite good because you really want to treat everyone fairly and the same way. If somebody who is a director breaks an harassment or workplace violence kind of policy, then you don't want to be just dismissing it because they're high up. They're just as much could bring the reputation of the company into disrepute, and also cause harm to people. So the steps to getting started with IRM. First off, we've got to turn on auditing. So when turned on, user and admin activity in your organization is recorded into the Microsoft 365 audit log. Many of you probably have already turned this on in many of your tenancies. Insider risk policies and analytics scans use this log to detect risk activities. And then what we need to do is assign permissions. So we need to assign users to the role groups, and we'll cover some of those role groups a bit later. Effectively, assigning people to those role groups allows investigators and people who manage this, compliance managers, to investigate these. And then we've got to choose the policy indicators. So we talked about indicators before, and we'll cover this in detail. But we need to choose the ones that are more applicable to what we want to detect, investigate within our tenancy and organization. And then we can scan for potential insider risks. So run an analytics scan to discover potential insider risks occurring within the org. And then we can create our first policies, and this is really, we'll go through the policies again, and we'll demo those. This is where we can kind of, from the templates we have, define the user activities we want to detect and investigate. And then the final kind of stage is the review stage. So we can review the user activity, we can review the alerts, and here we can kind of investigate cases. So let's have a look a little bit about these indicators we talked about. So indicators are what we can detect upon. So we've got a number of categories, main categories here. We've got office indicators, and office indicators that involves the kind of sharing, deleting, downloading, and sending of SharePoint, Teams, also OneDrive content. And then we've got device indicators, so mounting, moving files to USB devices, copying files to network shares, deleting files from devices, or using Edge browser to copy to cloud storage. And we've also got physical access indicators. So this is people trying to access physical locations. So this is where you can get IRM to work with your door entry access system. So you can kind of get that data as well. So pretty interesting. It's not one I've personally tried yet, but yeah, it could be quite useful. And then we've also got Microsoft Defender for cloud apps indicators. So actions taken on those cloud apps. So not just in the Microsoft ecosphere. So risky activities may not occur as isolated events. So that's the important thing there. You know, one event on its own may not indicate that it's a great risk. But what we see quite a lot is these sequences of these events, and taken together, they're a kind of indicator of a much larger issue. So a sequence is a group of two or more user activities performed one after the other that might suggest an elevated risk. So I've got a little screenshot of the settings so far here, but we'll probably have a look at these. But I would probably suggest just do select all, which enables all of these settings here. This is a feature of IRM that's still in preview. And then added to that, we also have cumulative exfiltration detection. So this uses machine learning models to help you identify when user exfiltration activities exceed what it classes as the organizational averages. So when measured over time and over multiple exfiltration activity types. So IRM analysts and investigators can then use this cumulative exfiltration detection insights to help identify exfiltration activities that may not typically generate alerts, but are above what is the typical for their organization. So it's kind of getting that baseline of, you know, what is the normal activity within the org. Again, this is a feature that's still in preview, and thing I've noticed is if you select all, there's only one setting to select. So I don't know if that's an indicator there's going to be more settings or more things you can kind of change and configure within that, maybe tailor it. So I'm hopeful that that's the way it's going there. So we talked about one of the types of indicators was device indicators. And this, to enable this, we need to set it up on our devices. So there's a number of prereqs and steps we need to do to enable this. So first one is we need 1809 or later. We need to ensure that it's got a certain 17763 1.1075 update, which is from February 2020. So it's unlikely that many devices won't have that update, but it's worth calling out. A user account used to log on into Windows 10 device must be an active Azure AD account, and the device must be Azure AD. So it must be either hybrid Azure AD or Active Directory joined or Azure Active Directory registered. And devices must be enrolled to Microsoft Defender for endpoint. Enable, and then you must enable device monitoring from the compliance portal settings, which is quite a simple setting to enable. It takes a few minutes. So within IRM itself, we've got the alert dashboard. So this is where you manage alerts. Alerts are automatically generated by risk indicators, which we select, defined in our policies. So policies can be applied to various scopes, so certain users, or they can be applied to the whole organization. And we can prioritize certain areas. We're going to look at all of this in the demo. So these alerts give compliance analysts and investigators a view of the current risk status and allow your organization to triage and take actions for discovered risks. So a few things to call out here that we have. We have total alerts that need to be reviewed. We have the open alerts over the past 30 days. And we have the average time to resolve the alerts. So some statistics about how fast these alerts are getting looked at and resolved. And then we also, for triaging alerts, they can take a number of four different statuses. We have confirmed, so an alert confirmed and assigned to a new or existing case. And then we have dismissed, an alert dismissed as benign or in the triage process. And we have alerts that need review, so an alert where no triage actions have been taken on it yet. And then we have resolved alerts as well, so alert that is part of a closed or resolved case. And then we also have the case dashboard. So case dashboard allows you to view and act on the cases that we have. So we have active cases, the total number of active cases under investigation, and we have cases over the past 30 days. So the total number of cases that are created, sorted by active and closed status. And then we have statistics again. So we have the average time of the active cases, so how long they've taken to be resolved, listed in hours, days, and months. So some cases can be fairly large. And then we also have a case overview tab. So when we click into the case itself, we're going to get a summary of that case and the details. And this helps for our risk analysts and our investigators to investigate that. You can find out more about it, the case itself. So you can find out the status. You can find out the case when it was created, the user's risk score. So this is quite interesting, the current calculated risk level of the user for the case. This score is calculated every 24 hours and uses the alert risk score from all active alerts associated to that user. So you can see a kind of overall, we're looking at one case that might be made of several different alerts for that user, but that user could have multiple alerts that maybe aren't added to a case yet. So it takes that overall risk. How risky is that user? How risky is the activities that they're embarking on? And then we have email. So the email alias of the user of the case, organizational department, their manager's name, and the manager's email. So we get a few bits of details there. We can see in here though that it's all currently anonymous, and that's because of that anonymization that's in place. So we have various actions we can take when handling cases. So we can add case notes, as I mentioned earlier. So we can manually add notes as we go along and reviewing those. We can escalate the cases. We can send email notices. So as we'll talk about those, kind of a reminder of the policies, maybe a good acceptable use policy. And we can also run automated tasks with Power Automate. And there's a few flows there. You can see a few template flows that we can use. Obviously, create your own ones, but there's quite a few nice ones to get you started. And then we can view or create Microsoft Teams team for the case. And then obviously we can resolve the case as well. And then we also get something called user activity reports. So user activity reports allow you to examine activities for specific users for a defined time period without having to assign them temporarily or explicitly to an inside a risk management policy. So what we mean by that is some of these policies may only scope certain users, and the user activity report comes outside of that and will look at that activity, whether it's a part of a policy or not. So we can see that any risky activities are reported in there. It is in preview at the moment still. We've got a little bit of the dashboard here, so a few screenshots we looked at, and what we'll do now is just have a look at the demo. So let me just open up the environment. So hopefully you can see that. So here, right on the very first page, we access this through the compliance portal, so admin portal, and just down here we can see insider risk management here. So we click on that, it gives us this overview, and we can see there's a right here, explore insider risk management. Gives you a little bit video of getting started, and we've got some top actions to get us started as well. So we can start clicking on those and going through, and it gives you some help and assistance on doing those. We can also see the alerts that we have to review, and we've got an alert there. We've got any active cases that we've got. We've got one active case currently there as well. And we've got some, we can manage all the alerts there, so we can see a few more alerts. Again, we can see them all as anonymized at the moment. And we can see a bit about our policies as well. So we can see the policies and the active alerts within those policies. And to get some, this is where we can go to click on to see those activities that are already within our environment. So we can see those. And we can do, as I mentioned just a second ago, that investigate the user activity, so we can manage those reports as well and run those user or create those user activity reports. And right at the top here, we can jump to the various menus. So we'll have a quick look first at alerts. And here we can see that alert dashboard. And we can see we've got the alerts for the past 30 days. We've got the alerts here. And we've got the statistics. There's nothing really reported there because it's only a demo environment. So what we'll do is we'll click on this needs review. We'll click on there. And we can see some more information. So the user triggered a high severity DLP policy alert on the 6th of December. We still can't tell who that user is, so that's fine. And we can see the severity of that. So it's medium, it's 50 out of 100. And we can see 3 events, so we can click on to see those events. We'll view that activity. So this gives us what's called the Activity Explorer, and we can see the various actions, hopefully when it loads. Give it a little few seconds. So we can see that there's a bunch of files that's been deleted here. And we can see what those files are. You click on there, it gives us a bit more information, so where they've been deleted from, and exactly what's gone on there. So from all this information here, we can decide whether to dismiss the alert, we'll confirm all these alerts and create a case. So what we'll do is we'll create a case. So we'll just call it case 2, add some notes there. And it'll go off and create a case. It does take a little bit of time. There you go, great. That's brilliant. So under the cases area, we can see our active cases. And we can see we've got 2 now. So have a look at this previous one we've got here. So here it gives us a little bit more information. We've got the alerts that are attached to the case. We can see what policy there. So it comes from a departing potential data theft, departing employees policy. We can see the user activity. So this is everything about from that user. So you can see they've accessed sensitive SharePoint files, and people inside the organization added to sensitive or priority SharePoint sites. So it looks like they've been sharing sites or files with external people, or people inside, sorry. And we can see, again, back to that Activity Explorer, but we can also see the Content Explorer. So this gives us actually looking at what the content is. So we can see what's going on there. Right here is where we can add our own case notes. So we can just very quickly write something here, and that gets applied to the case. So we can see who's applied that there. And under contributors, we can see who has access to contribute to this case. So we can see inside of risk management admins, inside of risk management, and Megan Bowen. And we'll cover some of those roles a little bit later. So policies. So this is the part we need to have a look at. So what we've got a few policies I've already configured here. One about a particular project, one that's around data leak by VIPs, and then we've got about departing employees one. So let's just create one and show what we've got under here. Okay, so we've got a number of those categories. So we've got data theft, we've got data theft by departing users. So this one is where you have a HR connector. So you set up a data connector within the compliance center, and this could be an export from your HR system itself. If it exports to CSV, we can then, in the right format, upload that into the data connector, and then IRM is aware of that. So what we can do there is departing employees, or maybe employees who've been put on a performance plan, that can all be imported into IRM through the data connector. A lot of this, I think, you could easily power automate. So you could do this so it comes on a schedule. If you can schedule it from your, say, your HR system, you can then use a power automate to look for that file CSV and automatically upload that. So let's look at data leaks. So we've got a number, general data leaks, and general data leaks by priority users. So we can prioritize certain users there. And then we've also got disgruntled users as well. So again, that could pull from that data connector. So looking for those people who may be on performance plan or have had a disciplinary. And then we've got security policy violations. So many of these are in preview, all of these are in preview. But under here, we've got general security policy violations, security violations by departing users, disgruntled users, and then priority users as well. So people who may be in by priority users, we could mean if you know, in a bank, they could be traders. So what we'll do is we'll go back to data leaks. We'll look at the general data leaks policy, and we'll go and set one up. We'll have a look at what this looks like. So just give it a quick name. And here we can include all users and groups, or we can be specific about it. So we can just target certain users, certain groups of users. And this is where we can specify the content to prioritize. So what is this is about adding priorities. So we could have people, or we could have, certain SharePoint sites, certain labels that if people are doing or risky activities on those, it would up the risk level, and we want to know about it sooner. So we'll do that. We'll go through this. And here we can add a SharePoint site. So I'll just choose one when it loads. We'll do sales and marketing. And here we've got sensitive info types. So these are those sensitive info types that we get within the compliance center. So you'll be probably fairly familiar with these if you've looked at information protection or DLP. So we've got a bunch of stuff here, and so we want to make sure Azure storage key with that. And then also we can have sensitivity labels. So we've got a number, if we have information protection enabled, sensitivity labels enabled, we can see there's a bunch here. So we can have, let's have, choose one, that one, highly confidential. And then here we've got the options of user matches a DLP policy, or we can add certain activities. We can choose to enable which ones we want or disable. So we're interested in those. And we can use the default thresholds, or we can customize. So this is quite interesting. So this is where you can change those defaults. You can make it more sensitive or less sensitive. So here we've got printing files. We might want to raise that up. Maybe that's not too much of an issue. And we can just change these how we want, configure them exactly how we need. And this is that indicators we talked about, so policy indicators. So we've got all these Office indicators we talked about. This is all about doing things within SharePoint, within Teams. We can see a number of things here. So not only deleting the files and folders, but also going into the first stage recycling bin, the second stage recycling bin if they're a SharePoint admin. So, you know, having those abilities to do that means that they could do more damage, you know, to our sensitive data. And we've got a number of different things, Teams channels as well. So there's lots of different options there. Downloading content. Then we've got device indicators. So this is all those things to do with copying data to devices, mounting USB devices, file shares, cloud storage. And we have these physical access indicators. So it's that working with those door entry systems. And then we've got the ones around cloud apps. So unusual mass downloading, unusual mass sharing of content. And then sequence detection, we can turn those one or two on, we can turn it all on. And as we talked about earlier, we've got that cumulative exfiltration detection as well. And we've got one more down here, risk score boosters. So we can see if it's above the usual activity for that day for the user. We decide whether to use custom or default thresholds. So again, all of those ones we've checked, so there's going to be a lot to scroll through. We could all edit those, so we can change them how we want. We could lower that to 1 if we wanted, and that down to 2, and that down to 3. And then we can click next to that, and we get a summary of what we've done there. We can save that. I'm not going to save that. I'll just click cancel. So that's really our policies, and that's really what we need to do as a first step in defining this. We can see a list of the users. We can see that they're all anonymized. We also notice templates is where we can create notice templates. I think I've got one in here already. So this could be pointing them to a policy to read, or it could be even worse, like you're fired. I wouldn't imagine that would be a great one to put in here. So one other thing we're going to look at quickly is just some of the settings within here. So we'll go and have a look at what settings you can configure when you're configuring this. We'll just pick out some of the key ones. So yeah, we've got privacy. So here we can just turn that and it will show those users immediately. I quite like the anonymized version. I think it's a fairer way to do things. And we've got policy indicators. So this is where you come in and you choose the ones that your organization care about and don't care about. So you can see I've not selected any of the health record access indicators, so they won't be available when I'm creating policies. But if we were, say, in the kind of maybe an NHS organization, then maybe we'd want to tick those. We've got policy timeframes, so how long do we look at past activity? So we can lower that if we wanted for activation window and then past activity. And we've got bits around intelligent detections, exporting alerts, so the API. And then we can create these priority user groups. So we can create these groups that we can use. So I've created one here, VIP team. It's just added a few members from the organization. And the same way as we can create those physical assets, which I've had to play with. And then we can create some flows. So this just goes to a look through Power Automate, and we can see there's a few there that we can pick what from, or we can create our own ones. And there's analytics that we can turn on. And then there's notifications, so admin notifications. So who gets these notifications? Great. So IRM has a number of template policies with indicators for common and specific industry related scenarios. So I've just put a slide here together with those ones. We had a quick look at those in there. Like I say, we looked at the healthcare one wasn't available to our policies because I hadn't enabled that. But the QR code here is just gives you a link of all the information on those, so you can really drill into and understand them. Just goes to Microsoft Docs. So there's a few roles here that are important. So we have insider risk management, that role. So this one is really a bit of a kind of get started role, if you like. If you're in a smaller organization, adding people to this role will essentially give them all the permissions they need. So if you only have one person looking after the compliance and one person doing the same person doing the investigation, as would be making the decisions and judgments, then adding people to this would give them all the access they need. But on those larger organizations, you might want to split out into those other roles. So you've got that's when you'd kind of ignore the insider risk management role itself, but use the insider risk admin, analysts, investigators, and auditors, and they pretty much do what they say. So we'll have a quick admin is really about globally administrating it, whereas the analyst group is there to kind of allow them to look at case alerts, cases, and notice templates. What they can't do is look at that content explorer. And then we've got the investigators. So again, they have access to the alerts, cases, notice templates, and the content explorer for the cases. So a little bit more that they get there. And then we've got another group, auditors, and that's really about auditing. So kind of who watches the watchman type thing. So we've got a few licenses available for. So the big one, Microsoft 365 E5, A5, or G5 subscription. It's part of there, along with most of the features in 365. You could also have the Microsoft 365 E3, A3, G3 sub, and then you could add the Microsoft 365 E5 or A5 or G5 compliance add-on. So that's the compliance add-on. With the Microsoft 365 E3, A3, G3 sub, you could also add the insider risk management, so the E5, A5, G5 insider risk management add-on. So that doesn't give you all of the rest of the compliance features, but just gives you IRM. And then you could also have the Office 365 E3 with EMS, and then add the compliance add-on to that as well. So a few interesting things coming up in the roadmap that I've pulled out here. We've got increased visibility on browsers. So that's increased visibility of risky activity using browsers and associated risk policy templates. So that's coming in February. And then we've got a new machine learning detector. So new detections powered by machine learning to help uncover hidden insider risks. So another one that's coming a bit later in April. So a bit of a conclusion here. We've got IRM adds further benefits to the existing tools that we might already have in place for data protection, and it's complementary to those tools. Exists with say compliance, communication compliance, and things like that, information protection, DLP. So it takes situations in context, such as disgruntled employees or leaving employees that are leaving the business on their way out, and it adds more severity to those. It can apply several different actions depending on the severity, the indicator, and the activity. So depending on the situation, so it's situational dependent, and it is the best tool we have for tackling those insider threats. There isn't anything else in Microsoft 365 that's going to really give you that much flexibility. So it's a really good tool in your arsenal for data protection. Okay, I'll open it up to questions.
Great stuff, Matt. Thank you very much for that session. I learned lots, and it is huge. There's a lot of depth to that side of the compliance. But yeah, I think thanks for providing the session. I'll probably give a couple of minutes, if I may, to attendees to unmute yourselves, switch on the camera, and just ask any questions around that. I guess whilst the attendees are thinking, if I can maybe ask a couple of questions, if that's all right. I saw in the demo where you, when you were creating the policy there, and one of the steps in there was the trigger. I saw some of those, they look similar to what you have in the endpoint configuration manager when you're kind of setting up your mobile application or device policies, where you prevent somebody from copying or printing. How much of that versus what you see in the triggers in this particular the IRM policy, it overlaps?
Yeah, there's quite a bit of overlap, I would say, with the existing. So you're talking about Intune there, aren't you? In the policies you can figure out. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of overlap. But what I would kind of say is that where in things like Intune and information protection, DLP, it's you can have them. It's more about blocking, or you can have it on audit mode as well. But a lot of those. But this kind of looks a little bit more sensitively, I suppose. It's not so much about that block isolate action. It's a bit more about where this really comes into its own is where that sequence that user's doing much more than just that one time offense. Admittedly, many organizations can't just block. I know some organizations if you talk to the CISO or the CIO, they very much take the stance of we've got to lock down everything. Well, of course, it just gets in the way of productivity, and then pretty much the CISO's overruled fairly quickly. So this tool, I think, really helps with those sort of situations where you want to strike that balance. You do want to allow people to do things, but also you don't really trust anyone. Everyone's got the capacity to do something wrong that they might need help about.
I mean, that was kind of just because you just touched it there. I think in terms of, because when I go to some of these organizations, and you're right, the blanket requirement is we want to make everything secure and make sure we comply, and then being able to translate those policies, solutions that you have in M365 versus the requirements that you may get from the business. But what I tend to find is, because this area is so huge, and when you kind of present in terms of the capabilities you have, and typically I think information governance, the information protection tends to be the starting points anyways, right? In most cases, or at least that's the part some organizations only limit themselves to, probably because I guess there's a lack of skills or knowledge or even lack of resources to even manage the huge security coverage. And I'm always interested to find out from your side of things, when you work with organizations, how does that kind of pave the way in terms of that journey for that security and compliance? Because clearly organizations will just not switch on unless it's written down. It's very prescriptive that you got to have IRM switched on, right? Um, do you have any viewpoints around that in terms of that
Yeah,
kind of day 30, day 60 type scenario?
yeah, I think yeah, that's a good point. I think there are sort of roadmaps, aren't there, that you can kind of look for switching some of these on, and I would probably say that I've dealt with a few greenfield organizations recently. I won't obviously name client names, but and you know, that's not a I guess the scenario you come across every day, where you kind of got a business coming out of nowhere, but the business is fairly I would say, you know, not insubstantial in size, you know, but it's certainly happening a lot in the kind of an ex-Brexit phase that we're in as a kind of in the UK. So we're taking on work from the EU. What I'm seeing with those sort of organizations where, you know, you've got a number of employees that are transferring across, they do need some of the, and they're dealing with quite a lot of sensitive data. They are open to the conversations of you know, how, you know, the tools that we use, and certainly I certainly start the conversation off with information protection and retention. Retention is one of those ones you can definitely strike that, you know, it needs to be done. But I like to do it hand in hand with information protection, and then, you know, then also with security as well. So security probably comes first. You know, Defender certainly comes up there. You know, certainly organisations that are embracing sort of E5 and the security that comes with E5. Defender's one of their drivers that they're more keen on. You know, they want to get that going, but then, you know, devices, applications aren't the only things that need securing. So, you know, quickly follow up with
Indeed.
data protection and information protection is a good start. But yeah, those conversations are steered towards the other parts of it as well, and also, you know, talking about e-discovery and communication compliance as well. I think the good thing is none of these are very hard to put in place. You know, it's quite easy to set up. The thing that does take time is the understanding with the client, you know, the customer and those in the organization, because effectively at the end of the day, it's not an IT. It's not going to be held by IT. It's not going to be looked after by IT. It's going to be.
They can only support it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's going to be handed over. It needs to be.
Or maybe do some cool demos.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Right. No, that's good. So I hear that absolutely. I think it's and I think there's obviously more and more features, capabilities coming out, and I think some of the work that's happening out there already. So I guess watch the space for 2022, right? In terms of because I think there's a lot of investments going now, especially in the security compliance areas, because we've got M365, Office 365, SharePoint, Teams. It's all here. It's all here to stay, right? But it's I guess it's how secure it is. So good stuff. I'll just give probably one shout out to the attendees. Anyone? Any questions from anyone, please? Haven't seen anything in the chat. Okay, so I think let's kind of, if you like, wrap up the session there, Matt. But I'm sure, you know, if there's any afterthought for any questions, then I think I'm sure we'll get that in the chat window. So we'll do that. But I just want to say a big thanks, Matt, for giving up your time and giving us all the knowledge and the experience around the M365 insider risk management. So really appreciate that, and great to have you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
No, absolute pleasure. And I've put the link for all the attendees. If you could kindly please, there's only about 3 or 4 questions. It will really help out Matt if he wants to improve or add some more materials to it. So please feel free to fill out that feedback. Really helps as well. So I appreciate that, and thanks in advance for that. So, okay, so we'll take a break.
That was a quick coffee.
That was a quick one, wasn't it? Yeah, I always have coffees going on. How are you both? You all right?
Very good. Thank you for inviting us.
No, it's a pleasure. Thanks for being here. I think this year I think we've met a few places, isn't it? South Coast Summit and Comsverse as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then Scottish Summit coming up as well. Thing is good that UK.
Fingers crossed.
I was thinking as well, compared to other countries in Europe, I think UK's got more conferences, if I'm not mistaken, right? All the different ones, right? Of course.
Yeah, we seem to just be getting on with it, don't we?
It's the way to do it. Absolutely. Good stuff. Right. I think so. Yeah, on the dot. So yeah, welcome everyone. Welcome back. And so, thanks to Matt earlier who was here with our session on Microsoft Insider Risk Management. Hope you enjoyed that. And I think I saw a question from Sara there as well. So I think if Matt's around, I'm sure he'll give his further 2 pence worth, if you like, within that. But yeah, for those of you who's just joined, we welcome Sara, Fennah, and Lesley Crook, who's been here before. I would say probably, Lesley, you're one of our frequent speakers at M365 UK, and
It's my third one, I think.
No, absolutely. You bring wealth of knowledge, experience. Great to have you here, and also Sara's first time. I've known Sara for quite some time, certainly over Twitter, but this year, even more. So really glad to have you, Sara, as well. And
Thank you.
Both Sara and Lesley are Microsoft MVPs. Sara's MCT, and just recently, as I hear, or this week, I think, congratulations to you as well for becoming MCT regional lead. I'm sure you'll tell us what that means. But yeah, congrats to you, and thanks for the work you do in the community as well. So sessions about Microsoft Viva, the full things, what it is, how it's set up, and integrations with other services. So some of us are working quite closely to that. So it's great to have you. And just tell us all about it. So over to you, both of you.
Hey, I shall just pull up the presentation. Please let me know when that comes up. Perfect.
All good.
As Lesley's going to take the first few slides, I'll start by introducing myself. As Chirag says, I am MCT, so primarily spend most of my time training Microsoft 365. I've been a trainer for more years than I care to remember. And as of the 1st of January, I will be a regional lead for the UK, so representing UK-based Microsoft certified trainers back to Microsoft and vice versa. So any of you who are interested in training, being in MCTs, or have feedback, comments, suggestions, apparently I'm the person to share it with, but only from January. Let me have Christmas first. I am taking the role of the Viva realist in this presentation, so my job is to stick to reality and the now. Whereas Lesley, over to you.
Hi there, everyone. Lesley Crook. I'm a 5th year MVP around the rare space of user adoption and change management in the MVP space. I was in employee engagement, corporate communications for more years than I would like to tell you that I was working there at GlaxoSmithKline. I left there about 5-6 years ago, and because of the success of Yammer, I decided I wanted to help other organisations to use Yammer. So I have a lot of experience around Yammer that we thought was dead, but it's not, because it's very much there now in Viva Connections. So it's I've just come out this afternoon from the Yammer Festival, a big event that's going on online today and tomorrow, going all around the world, with a whole load of Yammer fans and amazing success stories about the use of Yammer. That is being run by a company called Swoop Analytics, and it's very much in use. It is still very much being used, and it will be going forward as well. So I'm the visionary here, and this is where Sara and I met up for the second time. We were at the South Coast Summit, and this photograph's kind of like says it all. So there's Sarah, the realist with the blue sky, which is a little bit about kind of future thinking as well. But there's the clear blue sky of where we can see actually now. And there's me in the clouds and now working at Cloudway with 8 other MVPs. So I'm there as the visionary. We're also representing the women in tech community, that's their logo there, and also the Tech Her. And I have my t-shirt on here which actually says diversity in tech as well, which came out of the I think I've got that from one of the Ignite sessions. So without further ado, I will take control, which I should have done, and take you into kind of like so what we're going to share with you is a lot of this you can do now, but a lot of it is kind of like Microsoft saying this is coming next year. We don't know when it's coming next year. Some of it's probably not even on the roadmap yet. So there's some real visionary pieces here. And if I just kind of scan down the icons here, there is a 5th module, and it's called Ally, and I will we'll touch upon that towards the end and tell you a little bit more about that, but that is coming in next year, and I'm really excited about Ally. So just getting into this, so we've got just kind of taking a step back. So we've got now this phrase called the hybrid workplace, and it's not a totally new concept, but today we want to go deeper on what this really means. So it's where you have people that have a flexible location, a real office location, and flexible working hours, and assumes a mix of these, it's assuming that there's a mix of all these flexible work styles. We've also got a whole big program that's funded by Microsoft, where you've got all of these old meeting room spaces that are now being refurbished and upgraded into Microsoft team rooms as well. So that's going on as well, so that you can really, encourage people to come into the office, but also be able to work from home and come in and not actually touching any of the equipment that's in the room, that it's kind of like really easy to operate without actually having to touch it at all, or just operate the meeting room equipment maybe just from your own phone. But every organisation will have a unique approach in line with their own policies, which is appropriate for their people, their culture, and the business they're in. So we've got here Microsoft Teams, and what is Teams? What does it give you over Skype that was decommissioned? Yeah, it's got meeting, it's got chat, and it's got calling, just like Skype had. But you've now got, this raft of collaboration and automation that's enabling people to be far more productive than they were previously, and do that from any location. So we're now going to help you see the art of the possible. And this new term, employee experience, with an overview of Viva. So I see, what's the difference between employee engagement and employee experience? I see it that employee experience is the feeling, it's the culture of your organisation, it's how we do things around here, and it's very difficult to kind of like write down and describe, but that's what employee experience is all around. And it's the point from where you enter an organisation to the point where you leave and retire, and that could be the employee experience that might go over, maybe 20 years of someone being in a company. And I think the difference between employee engagement is kind of like that's more about the written messaging, the targeting of audiences, and now allowing them to feed back and hearing their voices, So we're going to take you into the art of the possible with on a fictitious company called RelaCloud, and that's where we're going to see a couple of 4 very quick demos that we've got for you that will be moving pretty fast, and they're only run for about maybe less than a minute for each one. And as I said, I'm going to be going at pace, and I can show the videos again at the end of the session because we probably will have time. But yeah, please use chat as we're passing over the baton between the realists and the visionary. There'll be one of us monitoring chat as well. So the first one up is Viva Connections. This is the culture and communications of the business, and this is a real focus now for those people, for the teams in corporate communications. And I will start rolling this little video. So the first module is Viva Connections. and it includes a feed of news, conversations and company events surfaced on a modern SharePoint site, and it can include Yammer and Stream. And the same experience is on your mobile, and it provides a personal dashboard for your resources like booking a safe desk at the office, or submitting an expense claim, or monitoring your company incentives, or requesting your holiday, you know, kind of like quick links that are really useful to you personally. And connections can also be customized and personalized for every role. We've got an example here of a retail store cashier clocking in directly in their dashboard from their phone. So hope that hasn't completely blown your mind, but I'm now going to hand back to the realist.
Thank you. And I'm going to take you into my reality. So this is Viva Connections on my computer today. And I'm looking at it from the point of view of the PC app. You get the same experience in the web browser as well. Okay, so I've got here my icon for Viva Connections, my SharePoint homepage showing up with this dashboard, and the Viva Connections feed showing the information. Now, when you click back onto that icon on the left-hand side, you've then got your SharePoint global navigation. So at the moment, Viva Connections is primarily SharePoint in Teams. And I agree with Chirag, SharePoint rocks. Now, there are some things that we need to think about slightly differently for SharePoint, because we're bringing it into Teams and how we navigate around it. But it's all about building your SharePoint intranet in a way that is useful for the PC user in Teams, but also for your mobile user. So this is my Viva Connections in mobile. We start in the dashboard, and that gives us those little cards. You can custom create these cards. That was where we had a user clocking in using the shifts tool. You can see here I have no shifts assigned to me, but we can easily add the shifts tool. The next step we go on to is the feed, which is pulling in our SharePoint news feed. It's pulling in announcements from Yammer, and stealing a little bit of the visionary here, shortly it will also pull in our videos from Stream as well. My third tab on the mobile app is the resources tab, which is that SharePoint global navigation button. So how you set up Viva Connections, 4 steps. You've got to have a SharePoint intranet. This does not work if you do not have an intranet in your SharePoint as part of your Office 365. Once you've done that, you set the start point as the home site. And to be honest, building up that SharePoint site and making it suitable to be a home site for Viva Connections is the toughest bit. Exactly, it has to be a modern SharePoint site. It can be a team site, it can be a communication site, but it has to be a modern SharePoint site. You don't have to configure the global navigation, but it really is very helpful to give that extra layers. You can deploy Viva Connections without it. It doesn't work very well, but you can do it. And then you simply deploy the app. Now, the app is not active, it's blocked by default. So we go to the Teams Admin Center, we unblock the app, we make sure it's available to our users through app permission policies, and then we can push the app out to our users. Now, we've got links in the blog posts that we'll share at the end on exactly how to do all of these tasks as well. Couple of things to bear in mind as you're creating your SharePoint environment for Viva Connections is remember that the dashboard is supremely important for your mobile users. So do think about your mobile users when you're building that, but remember your desktop users want it as well. So I had it on my home page that I could access from the desktop as well, and I've also got the feed web part, which comes up in the mobile app, added to the home page. So it's available to both the desktop users and the mobile users. But do think about how it presents to the mobile users. So one of the cards I've got on my dashboard links back to the SharePoint home page to make it more accessible for the mobile users. Okay. Once you've unblocked the app, any user can find the Viva Connections app themselves. But as Nikki has said, if we configure it in the app setup policy, it makes it available for all users automatically, so they don't have to pin it themselves. Okay. So Lesley, back to you. Why do we want Viva Connections? What's the benefit?
Thank you, Sarah. Just wanted to put, there was one more thing we were supposed to have pointed out before we started. If you notice, we've got Viva backgrounds, but they're really quite different branding. So Sarah's got the original branding, and it's absolutely beautiful. The colours are amazing, and if you look closely, it's rotating. She's got backgrounds that keep changing, and her jumper slightly changes as well. I've got here the new icons, which Microsoft haven't actually properly issued to us yet. I think they're going to be the ones that will be how the apps will really be looking. So they're a little bit, the colours are a lot more muted to the branding that's out there, which is all singing, all dancing, the most rainbow colours. So that's why I've got the visionary ones, because they're still not quite fully baked, we think, but those are Sarah's got the ones which you've seen across, they've been everywhere, sort of thing. So I'm going to take you into now some business benefits and try and help you understand what this really means to to staff in your office, and kind of like the current state of how they're working now, but look at what Viva will actually be giving them, and what this will actually bring to the business. So this is more about the user adoption side of it and change management. So we've got someone here who wants to read company news and join conversations in the same way he does from his mobile phone on social media like Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter, but he's feeling frustrated that he can't access conversations as he can do from his phone. But now with connections, I have secure company content relevant to my role delivered on my mobile. It's in the flow of my work. It's up to date and it's instant and it's like social media. So the benefit here is easy to reach shared content. And we've got there's 3 statements for each of the modules. So we've got here someone who is working in communications. They're frustrated with their intranet app and its limitations, but now they've got global navigation, and they've got connections together as the mobile experience via Teams, and staff love it. So this is quick access to company content. And then we've got here this person enjoys working from home, but they feel less connected to colleagues. And the response here with connections and the future state is, I love working from home in a network of communities and managing my tasks in my personal dashboard. And this is a great work-life balance. So on that note, I hand back to the realist.
Thank you. And I'm going to talk licensing. Nothing like licensing to bring you down to earth with a bump. Except in this case, Viva Connections is included. Okay, so Viva Connections is available in any Microsoft 365 plan that includes SharePoint. They are promising us some extra, what is being termed sweetness, pardon the pun, if you purchase the Viva Suite license, which includes all the Viva products. In the integration between the different Viva products will be available as part of those extra licenses. Okay, so that's our Viva Connections licensing. It's all included and all available today. So let's go back to our Viva Visionary and learn a little bit more about the next module. think we've lost your sound, Lesley. Are you still there?
Hello, I'm back again.
Oh, you're back.
Yes, so we're moving on now to the second module. They're not in any particular order, but we've got here Viva topics, and this is about harnessing knowledge and expertise in your organisation like you've never been able to do before. You've usually got some kind of knowledge management team that are a very small team, and yeah, just working in databases, but this is like nothing we've ever had at our fingertips before. So this is a real focus for the knowledge workers in our organisation. So we've got here another little video. So we've got a lot of learning is done on the job. So Viva Topics uses AI to magically connect us to collective knowledge and experts while deep in our work. So when you come across an unfamiliar word or acronym, just hover over the word and a topic card pops up providing additional context. If you want to know more, just click on the topic card and it takes you to a topic page where you learn more, like definitions, relevant people, and pulls from resources from the right across the M365 suite, and from Yammer community conversations if you have that deployed in your company. So Viva Topics also creates a topic map to show links between related projects, helping everyone share organisational knowledge. And this module is perfect for new staff working hybrid. It can help them on board to company jargon really quickly, and for capturing that priceless tacit knowledge from employees that have been there a long time. So we see that the future champions for this will be your knowledge workers, people that work in communities of practice. If you've got a really big organisation, maybe you've got a librarian. But I'll talk more about the kind of like different kind of like champion groups that are going to be necessary to actually encourage pulling together a lot of this content. So so we've got here just some more of the benefits. So this person is new and of course struggling to find information, all the right people, and doesn't want to keep bothering colleagues, especially because they're all working at home. But now with topics in the future state, as I said, I hover over an unusual word like an acronym, and I now find helpful content and experts immediately, and this is helping them to focus. So we've got here someone who has been working in the company for a long time and holds a great knowledge that will be lost when they leave and when they're going to be retiring, and that's making them feel really sad and kind of like despondent that they put all this effort in and then it could just disappear when they go, because they've got quite a unique role. But this subject matter expert is now he can curate his knowledge and will remain when he leaves. So this is leaving quick access to company content which is going to be useful for others. And then the last one here is here's someone who's doing great and innovative work, but not encouraged to share, as the culture is actually regarded as sharing is showing off. And I actually heard this at DWP, which is what I presented before on at the user group, that prior to Teams coming in, it was like, oh, if you tell people I'm put everything out there, I've done this, I've done that. But bringing in the culture of Teams, it's now regarded as what I call working out loud, and that is sharing your work with a view that others might find it helpful and others might help you improve your work. So this is the virtuous circle of sharing your work. So on that note, I'm going to that's what I'm basically saying there. I forgot to click on the slide. So this is actually a great work-life balance. And I'm going to hand you back to the realist.
So topics is unfortunately one where the current state of play doesn't give us all of those same features. So this is what Viva Topics in terms of the management centre looks like today. So topics crawls through all of the data in Office 365, finds these topics, keywords, acronyms, things that occur frequently, and pulls them together, attaching to them suggested people, the people who've contributed to the majority of that content. Each of these topics is actually a SharePoint page, so we can pull more content into it. Now, Lesley showed you in the video those topics popping up in Teams in the context of a conversation, just in the normal flow of work. At the moment, unfortunately, topics only show up inside topic pages. So inside SharePoint pages where that word appears. Now it's starting to roll out in Outlook. Okay, if you use Outlook for the web, in the next week or so, you will have a Viva Topics option on the 3 dots as you're composing an email to add topics, and it's a manual process to add in a topic. The integration with Teams is coming early next year, as is the full integration with Yammer, etc. Okay. Viva Topics isn't for every organisation. Okay, there is no minimum number of users. We focus instead on the amount of content and how frequently it's used. So typically, we're saying a minimum of 20,000 documents, preferably millions. No amount of minimum users, but we need to actively use that content. So for some small businesses, this will still work, and small businesses are just as likely to have knowledge trapped inside individuals and forgotten about inside SharePoint sites as big organisations. Is it for use in a personal tenant? Well, technically no, but it works in my tenant. I primarily work as a freelance trainer, and I've got Viva Topics working in my tenant. You saw it. That's my Viva Topics. It's finding topics. It's working because I've got enough content, 20 years worth of training data in my Microsoft 365 environment, and I'm regularly accessing those documents and working with it, but it's just me. So it can work, but that's quite unusual for a single or very small, let's call them a micro company. Okay, now setting up Viva Topics is really easy. You buy the license, okay, you assign the license, and then you simply wait. So you go through the setup wizard after assigning the license. It takes 5 to 10 days for any topics to start appearing. I've got new topics appearing every day, even though I set it up back in February. We review the suggested topics and we publish them. Okay. Nikki's asking how it filters out the out-of-date content. It doesn't, but the more recent content obviously shows to the top. Okay. In terms of licensing, Viva Topics is not included in any Microsoft 365 plan by default. It's an add-on to all of them. Okay. If you buy Viva Topics itself as an individual, it's a per user license. Any user who wants to see the topics, we've got security settings. It obviously honors the security settings on the content as well. Okay, so you only need to license the users that you want to use it, but you can limit the reach of Viva Topics. And it is also included in the suite, and you can see that we've got topics using the Yammer integration and showing up in Outlook and Teams, all coming early next year. Most of the things that we've been told are coming are currently on the roadmap for between January and April. Okay. We do have more controls coming to topics, integration. Oh dear, I'm sleeping into the visionary role here. I hope Lesley will forgive me. But we do have integration with SharePoint managed metadata coming, and more controls over editing topics and combining them as well. And that's all coming hopefully by April next year. So that's Viva Topics. I've noticed a few questions. You're all answering them yourself in the chat. So I'm going to hand back to our visionary to start looking at Viva Learning.
Thank you. So as we understand it from Microsoft, learning is the most popular module at this time because it's probably the easiest to deploy, and Sarah will explain more about that in a second. But that seems one that seems to be appears to be getting the most interest at this time. And then we've got connections. Well, we're probably learning, probably insights, connections, and then topics. So, but Viva Learning is about upskilling and personal growth, and this is a real focus for obviously for HR and organisational development, and also specific parts of the business, because each business will be having their own training that they want to push out to specific parts of the organisation. So it will be going, deep into different parts of your organisation, depending on the amount of training that they need to share. So this is my learning view. You'll find content that's been allocated to you alongside a variety of other third-party training resources, including LinkedIn Learning and Microsoft Learn. And at the top, I can see a course allocated to me. I can open this LinkedIn Learning module directly on Teams without switching out of applications. That's the beauty of it. Learning is also integrated into chat and conversations and making it easy to find and share. So we can see what the manager's experience is here, which is you've got to have and I was going to say that's insights where you've got to have 10 people or more with insights. So I don't think that's true with here. But to keep people's skills up to date. So once they have identified a learning activity, they can allocate training to individuals or groups with an informal message in chat and monitor the completion date. So by clicking the manage assignments, managers can see their assignments and click and check status to track the status of a particular course. So this is just bringing everything together around learning for your direct reports in one easy to access space. So we've got here the benefits. So, what we at the moment, the current state is potentially, I find it time consuming. There's monitoring and signing my team's training activities as well as getting my own work done. But looking to the future, the near future, now I quickly send my direct reports links to training in a Teams channel conversational chat and easily track their learning for personal development, and that's helping me focus and get on with my job rather than worrying how to monitor their training that they need to do. And then you've got here someone that wants personal development but feels not giving any time to do so on the job. So, but looking to the future, they now feel extremely satisfied that learning new skills is regarded as part of their working day and part of their digital well-being. So this has improved my productivity. So it's bringing learning kind of like front and center and at the fingertips, within that portal of Teams to encourage learning and build that into people's time. And then we've got here someone that's new in the company and can't find the right training course, and there's so many legacy learning systems in place. But we've got here from the Teams app, they now find and register for LinkedIn Learning, third-party training on Microsoft Learn, and are now easily finding company content. So the benefit here is this is easy to reach shared content. So I'm going to hand back for the realist on what we can actually do on Learn today. And as I said, this is the most popular module that's being asked for by customers at this time. Back to the realist.
Well, Viva Learning today includes virtually everything that Lesley has told us about, virtually. Let me get to the licensing and I'll explain in a little bit more detail. But this is Viva Learning today. It works on PC and it also works on mobile. The full functionality really is most suitable for the PC or the web browser, but you can access the content and the learning from mobile as well. So if I look at the mobile application, I do have the ability to access that content, but I can't recommend content. I can't track content from the mobile. I've really got quite limited browsing functionality. It's more about viewing what I've recently looked at, going to what I've bookmarked myself, or doing a search. Okay, so to set up Viva Learning, we set up all of these Viva products through the Microsoft 365 Admin Center. There isn't a specific admin center to it. So I go to settings, I go to org settings. So in the Microsoft 365 Admin Center, to settings, to org settings, under services, and I find the appropriate Viva product. And that's where I find all of the settings. So we were chatting in the chat about restricting the sites in Viva Topics. Again, I go back to this same place. So with Viva Learning, I simply come into here and switch it on. If you just want to use third-party tools, that's it. Okay, you select the tools you want to use in Viva Learning and it's up and running. Okay, I have to make sure the app is approved for my users from the Teams Admin Center as well. It is switched on by default, but we can push it out and pin it to their side rail by adding it to an app setup policy. If we're going to bring our own content in, it's a little bit more involved. We need a SharePoint site to have a list of the learning content on it. Now, you can use an existing site or you can create a new one. The site needs to be accessible for all of your users and you can only have one Viva Learning site. And then what I do is I populate that list on the nominated SharePoint site with links to the folders that have my learning content in it. So that list where I populate the list of my learning content needs to be accessible to all users in my tenant, at least on a read-only basis. And then I put the links in. Now, the links don't actually work terribly well if you link to a whole SharePoint document library. You've got to link to a folder within a document library, which might make some of the SharePoint people in here cringe. It definitely made me cringe, but it is it is easy to just copy the link and add them in. Users will see that all the content listed. So they see everything listed, but they can only access the files if they've got permission on the file where it's stored in SharePoint. So if I add it to this library, they'll see that it exists, but they can only access it if they have access to where it's stored. Licensing is a little bit more involved for Viva Learning. So the free version of Viva Learning is included with every Teams license. So any Office 365 plan that includes Teams includes Viva Learning. And within this, we can make recommendations to colleagues by using this share. We can't actually recommend and track what people have done with our recommendations. So the actual recommend option from the 3 dots on a piece of training is only available in the paid plans. Okay. By default, you have Microsoft Learn, Microsoft 365 Learning, and the top 125 LinkedIn learning courses for free. If your organization has enterprise LinkedIn Learning subscription, that is included in this free edition as well. But if you're going to start adding in any other content providers, you've got to go to the licensed version of Viva Learning. We can integrate with tracking of what our users are doing with suitable LMSs. And you can do that with the paid version or the suite. Now, what's quite interesting here are these bottom 3, these integration with the suite. So Viva Learning and Viva Insights to block time for learning, with Viva Topics to include learning in those topics pages, and also with Viva Connections to surface learning content within our SharePoint intranet homepage. But those are only available if we've got the suite license, not if you've purchased the modules individually. Okay, so it is quite important to look at those. Okay. So that's Viva Learning. And some nice bits coming from a perspective of the future, and treading on the toes of the visionary there. So I will hand back for a look at Viva Insights.
Thank you, Sarah. So let's have a look at Viva Insights, which is about improving productivity and your well-being. And then the focus here comes from human resources and the IT guys and girls. So we've got here Viva Insights provides privacy protected insights and actionable recommendations that help everyone in the organisation hopefully work smarter and achieve this work-life balance. Individuals receive personal insights visible only to them and to help identify opportunities to change how they work so they can do their best work. Manager insights make it easy for managers to understand current team norms and take action to help their team strike a balance between productivity and well-being. And then you've got the third piece here. So you've got your personal insights, your manager's insights, and then you've got your organizational insights for your business leaders to help them give visibility right across the organization like they've never had before, helping them to understand where a change in organization could improve both the employee experience and business performance. So Viva Insights also offers tools and capabilities for even deeper analysis, and the reporting behind this is absolutely brilliant. It's going to be seeing a lot more about that, and it definitely needs you to go through some workshops to get a real understanding of how Viva Insights works. So we're going to have a quick look here. I'm going to hand back to the realist.
So setting up Viva Insights is really simple. Tick the box. In fact, it's on by default. The app's available in Teams by default. That is assuming that you just want the personal insights. Okay, that is literally all there is to it. Just switch it on. If you want the manager insights as to what your team is up to, or the organization level insights, then those are part of the paid Viva license, and those are Viva Insights license, sorry, or the suite. And that's a lot more involved to set up workplace analytics, and you do need a couple of weeks really to get it up and running properly. And also you need a minimum of 10 users in your organization, 10 licensed users in your organization to even pilot the manager and the organization level insights. But as I say, otherwise it's on by default, the app's available, go and have a look, and please bear in mind the personal insights are only available to us. Privacy is at the center of this product. So that said, Lesley, why should we use it?
Okay. Oh, I've still got control, haven't I? Yes, I have.
Yes, you have. You carry on.
Thank you. Oops, gone too fast, sorry. So we've got someone here, let me go back. I've got someone here who's sadly suffering with anxiety since lockdown and causing issues with their sleep. But now with I'm going to get anxiety in a minute if the flies don't behave. So with encouragement from their manager, they're now using the Headspace meditation app and the virtual commute and quiet time on their mobiles. So have downtime in between work, and it's really helping them focus, which is really good to hear. And then we've got someone here who's an HR manager who has to collate the staff feedback using the the laborious annual staff survey, which can take months to collate and share, and it can be really expensive as in a big organisation that's going to be outsourced. But they've now got at their fingertips, they can share corporate-wide plans to improve wellbeing using tools that quickly support complex staff challenges and can map reactions. So this is enabling easy to reach shared content. And then we've got here a senior leader who's frustrated as not having his pulse on the finger of the company and finding it difficult to measure how the brand, the products, or the culture are coping and landing with staff. But now he has data-driven visibility into how work patterns affect well-being and productivity, and again, the all-important business performance. So again, this is quick access to company content. And back to the realist on how to on the settings.
Just before I do, I just wanted to come back to that comment about privacy, because privacy is really important in this area. If we're running the My Organisation insights, then each individual insight itself only shows up when you've got 10 people that fall into each category. So I've got here my paid Viva Insights license. I've got 5 licensed users in the tenant, but I haven't got enough people falling into each category for the data to show up, even though it's completely anonymized and averaged and statistics covering the company. You've got to have a minimum of 10 users falling into those categories. So, privacy is really baked into this product. As I said, licensing wise, Microsoft, we've got all those personal insights included in the Microsoft 365 license. It relies on the Exchange Online component of the licensing. We can add per user licensing for Viva Insights, which gives us the My Team and the My Organisation. And then we've also got the suite. Personally, I'm most looking forward to the ability to set quiet hours from Viva Insights that covers Teams and Outlook on every app where I use it. And I'm sorry for stealing the visionary thunder, because Lesley's got a couple more bits to share with us. I know we're going slightly over time. I hope you'll forgive us, but we love our topic.
So the last one here is this 5th module, and this is really, really visionary. So this is Ally. It's a company that's been bought by Microsoft, and Ally is about this thing called OKRs, which is objectives and key results. So it's split into 2 parts. So it's about harnessing and gathering and aligning your personal objectives to your business objectives and measuring them against your key results. So we've just got here just some quick insights. Talking really fast now. We are trying to use spreadsheets to track team objectives manually, and they're not tied to the corporate objectives or individuals. But now they've got, even though I'm working from home, it has helped me connect with my direct reports to achieve targets and goals of the organisation. And then we've got here someone that's a member of staff is frustrated as it can take months to find out if he's really meeting his objectives. But now with Ally, this is a great time saver as we now go straight into conversations in our monthly meetings to track our individual objectives against business performance in a really neat dashboard, improving our productivity. And this is a new manager finding it difficult to write objectives for his staff as he's not got the clarity of the company strategies, but he's now got OKR examples of how to set goals that are defined and quantified, and these can be used as a reference for developing his own goals. So I think this is really exciting. I think this is the icing on the cake for organisations. I know that they already use tags within Ally, and I think that's going to be. I think my vision here is that they are going to be changed to topics. You've got Yammer, which switched from being referred to as tags. They are now referred to as topics. You've got Viva topics. I think this is the reason why all of this is coming together, because this is the icing on the cake of your organisation that we've never been able to do before. And I am really excited about all of this, but particularly excited about Ally. So I think there's one more slide. So I've got here, there were 15 statements. balance. So it's about improving productivity. It was about easy to reach shared content. It's quick access to company content, a great work-life balance, and it's going to help us focus more. So that's where I see the vision of Viva. And just the final slide is my experience around building up champions. So I've spoken before here about the work that I did at DWP about nurturing a Teams champion network. I've done similar at GSK for going back 5-6 years ago for Yammer champions. But now we're going to look at champion networks that you're going to need for connections, for topics, and for, I think, for Ally as well. So I think there's a lot going on in this space going into next year. So that finishes our little chat, and it's 6 o'clock on the dot.
That was good. Very well done. You didn't have to rush, by the way. I'm very informal about the timings because, I think it's great content. I think, you both did very well. And I think it takes a lot of effort, right? Because to coordinate and get this across, you made it look easier, at least for me anyways. I'm sure the attendees will agree as well. So
thank you. I think the thing is, though, having just one module to focus on for anyone at this time would be enough. But now to have 4 and then suddenly 5, there is a lot to get your head around. And then we've got Loop coming in as well. There's an awful lot of mesh. There's an awful lot happening.
Right?
We're going to be busy.
But I mean, I tell you, because recently I delivered a Viva Essentials course, one whole day. And I think from what you've covered in the last, 50 odd minutes, that's, it's the first time, right? So very well done. I think, it takes a lot of courage to be able to do that and provide. So, I think I'll give the attendees, I think, ask, because I think the chat was quite busy, and thank you both for even answering along the way. So I appreciate that. But any questions, anybody, feel free to ask, unmute, turn the camera on, let's see you.
So in the chat we both put, Sarah's put our blog. So I've created an advent calendar out of my content. So I've got 12 posts. I think I'm on number 7. But it's all come from the content of us thinking about this over the last kind of 6 weeks, 2 months. So I've got mine in little bite-sized chunks that I'm putting out over the 12 days of leading up to Christmas. And then we've got the Teams Queen with her blog.
Great. I think Matt's got a question. Hey, Matt.
Is this mainly for bigger organizations, or do you see much interest within the kind of small, medium businesses?
It fits across the scope. There's the different components of it that are attractive to smaller organizations and different components that are attractive to larger organizations. But for me, the niche is the hybrid working, where organizations are mixing the on-prem with the remote, and that applies to all sizes of organizations. That's where Viva's strengths are at the moment.
And I think, don't think about it as 4 separate modules. I think going forward, it's the integration across all of them. And I think Viva itself, the name will probably disappear, and it's the integration across everything that's blending into everything else, and different access points to get to the same features. So I think this is a bit of a marketing spin around this whole Viva piece. But the one thing I think we forgot to mention right at the beginning that is really important about all of this, it's old features that they've reimagined. So it's SharePoint, it's Yammer, it's the graph,
workplace analytics.
Workplace analytics. It's SharePoint. That's learning, isn't it? It's basically just SharePoint that they've fancied into this learning portal. But it's what we already know that they are reimagining, and then adding in the artificial intelligence side of it as well. So I think that's what we've got to be kind of like mindful of.
I think it is about. It is fair, because I think especially from Microsoft perspective, they've rolled out a lot of stuff in the last 3-4 years, and even the likes of myself, anybody, we get confused sometimes. Things have been rolled out thinking there's a product already, And I think, yeah, you're right, Lesley. The Viva is basically just almost rehashing it to an extent, if I
Yeah.
can use that word, but at the same time being kind of laterally being available and being able to get to it. And I think for me, it's like, a bit like SharePoint files, right? You can access that from Outlook, Teams, but Viva is basically anything what you want, wherever you are, all inside Teams. So it's
and
overwhelming.
Outlook, because that's what's a lot of the insights is pulling from, measuring how many meetings you're attending and how many emails you're sending, and reporting back on that. And that's what the briefing emails are, and the virtual commute at the end of the day, and how you're feeling is pulling information from Outlook.
Which
Although
is good,
mine
right?
just tells me off because I'm doing too many out of hours emails. So
I bet. Well, there you go.
Good. But listen, I think I've got to start wrapping up, and I think we could go on, and I'd love to go on more. And I think if
Talk about
the
this
time,
forever, yeah.
well, if the time circumstances permit next year, I'd love to do in-person events. So at least that way, nobody would kind of kick us out from that perspective. But I think it'll be good to at least see the developments of Microsoft Viva and what have you. But I think I'd just like to wrap up to say, a big thank you to all of you and Matt as well for earlier sessions. So, really appreciate last session of 2021, of course. So I think to all attendees and also the speakers over the year, thanks to everyone, really just, hoping that, M365 UK is still useful and you find all the content useful. So I've posted the link in the feedback link in the chat window. So please feel free to fill that out, and especially for Lesley and Sarah, so that they can at least update their session and improve and add if required, of course. So that would be good. Mentioned as well that next event is on the 26th of Jan with Joe Griffin and Christian Buckley. So a bit of a slightly than usual, because usually I do it on mid month of the every month, but obviously I'm away in January, so hopefully that date's okay. And so we look forward to the sessions around that. But until then, links in the YouTube will be live on Friday. So you can try and tune into this session as well. But other than that, all I would like to say is, wish you happy holidays and look after yourself. And we'll do M365 all over again next year.
Brilliant. Thank you.
thank you.
Bye,
Great.
everyone.
Thanks.
Bye
everyone.
everyone.
Have a great break. Bye.